Hello, everyone. My name is Coach Massey with Next Level Debate Academy. Welcome to K-Skool. These videos are for anyone on any debate skill level. I don't think it just applies to any particular middle school through, college. Today's topic will be how to write a KF. We will call this Volume 1. Let's get busy. Please put your questions in the comments. I will follow up with more videos to answer those questions. Subscribe, like, share. Come back for K-School. I'll continue to do the videos. I'll answer I'll answer your questions, I hope. Why write a KF? First is because it's strategic. It makes debates predictable. I know some of you that are involved in debate are like, oh, KFs are fun. No, you would do it because you want to win. And winning means that you can predict what the debates will look like and prepare for that prediction. Number two is the intellectual edge on specialized philosophical content. In other words, if I understand a certain philosopher and you do not, then I should be able to take advantage of that in a debate, just like if you understand certain economic statistics and maybe I don't in an economic situation, I might lose. Third is a good KF allows you to prepare on the negative when you get to elims. Now, here's what I mean is if I have a KF and people are going to debate it in elim rounds, a lot of times they don't want that. And so what they would like to do is they would like to go AF. And so I can prepare to be neg in that sense because most people want to flip AF. Also, people aren't prepared for you to flip neg in the elim round. So that's kind of why I think a good KF helps you in two ways. Also, you must always answer the question, why vote affirmative? A lot of people are really bad at this. And I'm going to say this at the beginning and at the end. If you can't answer why vote affirmative as the first question in cross X or crossfire, then you're probably not going to win with your KF. For me, a KF is not grabbing some file like FemRaid and reading it and then claiming to be I'm oppressed in debate. I think that bad K debate makes good K debate win. I think that whenever you look at the topic, that in the discussions about the topic and within the literature, there are conversations. And within those conversations is where you find your critiques. You don't just say, I want to read an X critique. There's four types of chaos. Look, I'm not going to limit it to this categorization, but these are kind of the ways I kind of see them. One is you have a critique of debate. I mean, we did this back in like 1999, 2000. Sure, it was fun, but you're not going to win tournaments that way very often. Two is you could critique the resolution. Sure, you can do that, but once again, you're looking to win tournaments, then this still allows you to be up in the air as far as framework and topicality for half your debates, especially if you get judges that are just like, no, you got to be topical, quote. Three, I think there's the reinterpretation of the topic. I think that there are some ways to say that the topic could be a metaphor. I think there are ways that people can draw parallels with the topic. At least you're getting closer to what does the topic mean. I think that, number four is then you have the unorthodox affirmations of the topic. For example, Heidegger and the term resolved and what does it mean to be resolved. Affirm the resolution to engage the topic, some people might say. But what I would like to say is I'll refer you to Eli Smith's article he wrote that talks about how it's good that you engage the topic and be a part of the topic. And so I feel like that Shanahan and I, the great Bill, had an argument one time because he convinced me that words are not so powerful that you cannot reinterpret a topic and be topical. To say the topic only means a certain thing and that you cannot change those words and break out of that proves that you lack revolutionary potential within your thinking. When writing a KF, you have some strategic methods you need to prepare for. Okay, now I want to say that, I kind of wrote these down because you're thinking about as I write it, I want to make sure that I have all these things in mind. One, how will my AF address perm or K alternatives whenever the other team reads K as like cap K or anti-blackness? Number two, how will you answer T or framework besides using the 2020 impact terms that say like rules are bad or USFG is oppressive? Like those are so old. Those debates have already been done. You got to be topical. Otherwise, a lot of judges are just going to not vote for you. Number three, how will you answer counterplans or picks? I think that that's the best strategic way that policy teams engage K teams as they start picking out of their plan or advocacy statement. Number four, write an AF for the best responses the other team has to your AF, forces them to commit to arguments that you want to criticize. That's what a KF does. When you think of KF, go back to you can't separate policies from values is one way to look at it. And so every policy making, every public utterance is a public commitment. What are the ethics behind your policies? Like get beyond the, debate, fiat isn't real, things like that. Go ahead and move into how are we being political? The fifth is most important is there must be value to your affirmative. Most disads in today's political environment are really impotent, because of the unpredictable nature of the way everything is happening in the current administration, from budget to war to the reflecting pool to Fauci. And so in this instance, I feel like that this is why K-Debate could do very well during the current political climate over the next year. Six is stable advocacy. This is so important. You can't have five different ways that you affirm in your 1AC. You got to have one consistent way that you say when they say what's the value in voting affirmative or why vote affirmative, you have to have one consistent way that you say that. And in most debates, you need to be able to say that over and over again. That way the judge can write it on their ballot after the round is over. Helpful. Some helpful hints. Write your app with small, tight impacts, not large, over-extrapolating impacts. Make the plan as short as possible to be topical. If you go with an advocacy statement, make it short. Don't make it long. The key to affirming the resolution is giving the neg the same ground they would usually have. Look, at the end of the debate, if you can look at the other side and say, what ground did you lose just because I didn't read a plan beyond the you didn't get to read these disads that really have no meaning, or maybe you did get to read a counterplan. I think that as long as they have topic ground, that's what's important. Use words that you could defend in your plan or in your advocacy statement that necessarily must be there. Otherwise, the other team can remove them and read a dissent to having that word. Neg has various strategic options for the simple concept of how do we disagree. So you got to think about those, like agent counterplans, the state. Whenever randomly say the resolution, be aware of the word picks like the we counterplan or the development assistance argument. If your topic says you got to give development assistance, there's a critique of that term. And so sometimes when people affirm with those terms, you can pick out of those terms, read offense of those terms, and really that kind of like an easy win. All in all, if you look at true argument theory. Number three, be aware of the process counterplans like delay, the rider counterplans, the study counterplans, Cheeto veto. In other words, where we say the president would veto the plan and then Congress would affirm it or whatever by 2/3. I don't know. I'm not a policy guy, but they cheat. What does the 1AC look like? First, think about strategy. Make sure it affirms the topic, okay? That's the first thing. And so if they're going to jump to TN framework, you want the judge to be internalizing that this is kind of about the topic. Next is in the speed and delivery area. Allow the space for the judge to think and process. Don't go too fast. Have a speed for digesting your argument, okay? Third is method matches substance. Form matches content, okay? Be exceptional, okay? Have that presentation, practice it over and over and over again. Four, understand how there's a manifestation of affect that overcomes cold calculations, especially when we talk about things that we cannot weigh, but how they must come into a place for the decision calculus. Now, in the area of evidence, I think this is also critical. I think you should read big cards versus word soup. I think you should want the judge to hear your authors. Don't use the whole really big tags and then read the cards. Then you're reading part of the cards that say the top of your tags. That's 1998. Or I'd say 2010 debate, 2007. Okay, before some of you were born. And so don't do it that way. Have your tags that kind of explain your argument and then read most of your cards. Have credible sources. This allows you to challenge the other team's sources. I'm not a big fan of word soup, okay? And so that's why I think you should read the big part of your cards. Why vote affirmative? I think that's critical. You need to constantly be able to say, why vote affirmative? And whenever they ask that question in cross-ex, if that was me and I was on the negative, my first question would be, why vote AF? And you, honestly, most KAFs win or lose by can they answer that question? How well does the first speaker answer the question of why vote affirmative? All right, that's volume one, how to write a KF. Subscribe and like K-Skool for the cool people. Don't be any level, be next level. Have a wonderful evening.